on.
So brothers, we are almost there, okay? You're all looking forward to go home and practice what you have learned. I know the anguish and the excitement what you have. So actually, in Jesus' life, we read the wedding at Cana, the, what is that? The wine ran out, and Mary told to Jesus. And Jesus asked the disciples what to do. And then they brought water, and then he converted wine, and then they gave to the, guest. And the guest commented one thing. Wow, where did they keep this excellent wine? Don't people serve first and then the bad wine at the last? But you serve the bad first and the best last. So that is what comes to my mind. I'm going to give you the best wine today.
Yeah.
The best wine all can drink and but really the best I'm keeping for you the last. So actually I couldn't control my temptation of entering into that world where you are standing solid. Here if you go, see, we are all rejected, we don't want to go there. But we find in this kind of, they are unstable, but this one is stable. That's why we read in Matthew chapter 18 verse 16, you are rock, on this rock I build my church. First of all, priests like me, bishops, popes, all those who hold authority like you also should know rock, geology, science, everybody should be taught. That's the first lesson. Because Jesus' symbolism is rock. Then how come we don't study about rocks? The same question, you are educators. You are all, qualified people. And don't you ask that question? Jesus told you, a rock, on this rock the whole church is built. Don't you think that there is a requirement here to learn about rock itself? Very basic lesson. You go to theology after learning geology. Geology to theology. This is how our life should have been for the past 2000 years. But see, no, if you ask the priest, can you say something about rock? Jesus told you are rock. And then Psalm, no? You are rock, my refuge. There are at least 1,000 references I can give. When you pray Psalms in the morning, many times you come across you are rock. The Bible uses the symbolism of the rock. In Bible, Jesus uses many times. Actually, he contemplated on the rocks those 40 days when he went to the wilderness. You know that? 18 years he contemplated on the rocks. He sat on them, he touched them, he caressed them. And then, you see, contemplation deepens our knowledge. Contemplation can take you to the ecological consciousness. There is no other route. So, most of the things, what I taught you, it doesn't come from books. Contemplation. When you take time to contemplate the insignificant things like this, they teach you are one of the greatest and sublime insights you gain wisdom. So contemplation is a must. You don't gain from reading books, only ecological intelligence you gain. Remember that. But ecological conscience can be gained only through contemplation, through Bible reading, etc., etc. It's a kind of a spirituality. So today I'm taking you almost 4.5 billion years ago, when planet was daunted only with stones. This is a landscape. In geological time scale, that's a classifying deep time, that is the clock we follow called geological time scale. So it is divided into four eons: Proterozoic, Paleozoic, Mesozoic, Cenozoic. It doesn't make any sense, isn't it? So the Paleozoic means old life, Mesozoic means middle life, Cenozoic means recent life. That is how they are known as the eons. Proterozoic, that is known as the Precambrian, divided into two, Hadean and Archean. These are the periods. Eons is the biggest category of time. Periods are lower category of classification of all time. Otherwise, we can't classify in any other way. 4.5 billion years, deep time. How can you classify it? You can't grapple with your brain, isn't it? So that is how we are going to Proterozoic. That is the very, very old time when planet was formed. You know, planet was formed through the accretion process. First planet was like this, a small stone. Then it attracted through the process of gravity, and then it added more matter. Slowly it grew. It became core. Then it became mantle. It became crust. Then big planet. It accreted the stuff and the debris all nearby through the process of gravity, and it collected. This all comes from the sun. When the sun was born, the reminiscent stuff became the debris, formation of planets. So our sun was born 5 billion years ago. At the time, these are the remaining stuff from which all the forms, some when it was ignited, birth of a star, ignited, the death is known as the supernova. The birth of a star, it ignites, star is born, Jesus is born. So at the time, a huge explosion takes place when the light, some stuff falls here, they become the planets. All right, this is how planet was formed. So here, the first primordial matter was a small stone. Yet we don't contemplate one. So actually, all the contemplation, what we did this week, Monday till Friday, all comes from this. That is what I want to tell you. We contemplate a lot, everything, but where it comes from, the abiotic factors. We contemplate on biotic factors, isn't it? Don't you think there's a requirement to contemplate on biotic? Don't you think you must have missed something? Father is not saying something. It's not complete. That kind of thought process also would have occurred in you in the ecological conscience level. So this is what the missing piece. So I brought it for you. So only there are 3 rocks. Now I'll show you how our theology becomes so rich by contemplating on the rocks. Our church becomes rich. So today, only 3 categories of stones. Rocks. The larger classification is only 3. Igneous rock, sedimentary rock, metamorphic rock. That is the end of geology. That's it. How easy. Igneous rock, metamorphic rock, and sedimentary rock. That's it. That's it. Don't confuse. Very simple science, geology, yet we don't learn it. That is the basic requirement to understand everything on planet Earth. This is igneous rock. Igneous means born out of fire. Born out of fire. You know, this rock is born out of magma or lava. You know, from volcanoes. The volcanoes produce enormous amount of liquid fire that is known as magma in the interior. When it flows outside, it is known as the lava. So this rock, immediately we can tell it is formed out of lava, the liquid fire which flowed outside the volcano, because of the materials, because of the crystals, what we find here. The crystals are larger. So that tells you that this rock was formed outside the surface of the earth. So it is known as granite. You know that. Yeah? They are known as intrusive rocks, extrusive rocks. This is an extrusive rock which formed outside. It will be little whitish. But the rock formed inside the magma, it will be darker. So it is known as gabbro. It is felsic. felsic rock, in other words. I don't want to confuse with many words, but you stick on to the intrusive and extrusive. This is formed outside. Crystals are, there are aluminum, there is feldspar, and there is, but in the other rock, lot of the major content is magnesium and iron. It will be darker. So you find some darker rocks here, in the campus. So immediately you know that is a gabbro or intrusive rock. So this rock today, in your, I observed that when you enter on the right hand side, you have subconsciously put it. That is, everything comes from there. That is the point. Everything comes from a Montfort retreat center is kind of contemplative place. It is a mysticism. Subconsciously you put it there. When you enter, that is the contemplation. You go and find out after talk, you find this rock. Especially you will find, when the sun comes, this shines, isn't it? The other stone doesn't shine. This stone shines. There are like sparks coming out of this stone. So now, this is the sedimentary rock. I didn't find, usually sedimentaries are big, but this is all disintegrated. So only, this must have been huge boulder which came from the parent rock, sedimentary. These are the very common rock you find in the surface of the earth. You know, they are formed under the water, mostly. Rivers, lakes, oceans. Sedimentary rocks, they come in clastic and plastic sedimentary, chemical sedimentary, biological sedimentary. There are three categories. You don't worry about them, but they are formed. You know how they form? They form collecting the particles from other rocks. Also, this rocks also sheds the particles. All of them, at last when the rain comes, the water carries all the particles and deposits in the water, and then the same process is again operative here, accretion. You know the planet, how it accreted all the debris and made a huge planet. The same sedimentary also does underwater, gathers all the particles, and through the process of cementation and compactation, it becomes a rock. So that's why in sedimentary rock you see layers. So, for example, one rock I want to tell you, you know the Tanjavur, Nandi. When you go, they tell you this rock grows. That is, in fact, true. This rock, only in water, if you put the Nandi inside, any rock can grow. It collects particles and becomes bigger, no? That is the process what they tell us. Then we are, oh, rock can grow? Yeah, it can grow. It grew huge boulder. Then again the erosion takes place. You know what? The particles coming out of the rock, that process is known as weathering of the rocks. That term you have to immediately learn. The soil is made by the process called weathering of the rocks. The weathering is done by wind, water, and vegetation. Even ants are involved in that because, you know, they walk million times and they make soil. And the roots of in a mountainous area, you go and contemplate, the roots penetrate the rocks and they make the soil. The passion, death, resurrection process is happening even as I explained in the sun, also in the 4.5 billion Archean Adian periods. This is what happened, passion, death and resurrection. The weathering of the rock is known as the passion and death because it undergoes a painful process of leaving the particles, okay? That is the passion and death. Resurrection is what? Soil. Resurrection is the soil, the outcome of this passion and death process. So this rock, sedimentary, grows in the water and then it disintegrates for the sake of others. There is no better love than laying down one's own life for the friends. Here is the symbolism. Yeah, it does. He did, first he demonstrated, illustrated to the whole planet what love is all about. So this becomes a sacrament for us, in fact. Even the Eucharist comes from here. Remember that. Wine comes from here. If you ask, where does all come from? From here. Everything, life, vegetation, fungi, monerons, everything comes from the rock. If he says, no, I don't want to undergo passion and death, no life remained as a rock. That's it. No life possible. So this is a sedimentary rock. Metamorphic rock is a marble. This is a granite. But I didn't get a piece, but yet we have in abundance in this house everywhere marble. Okay? So I think if you lift up the carpet there in the church, I think you will find a marble, I'm sure. Everybody knows marble. So what is marble? The marble comes from this. They come from like a foliated and unfoliated. There are two categories. You don't worry about the other category. So the marble is nothing but it was a sedimentary rock, either sedimentary rock or it was a igneous rock once upon a time, or it was a metamorphic rock. Three of them. So what happened when earthquake happened? The earth splits, the plate tectonic activity, those 12 plates always grind, upwell, hit, drop. All the earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis are the activity of the plate tectonic activity. The tsunami, that is which lifted the Indo-Australian plate in 2014, I guess, that created tsunami. So these are the outcome of the plate tectonic activity. These rocks, boulders, they fall into the crevice. They go much deeper. Only two things: pressure, temperature. That's it. Pressure, temperature melts these three rocks into liquid, and they reorganize their crystals and materials or substances, and they become metamorphic rock. That rock can become beautiful metamorphic rock. This rock can become beautiful metamorphic rock. For me, everything is beautiful. They don't have to become. Each rock maintains their own beauty and value. You should know that. But they submit themselves, that is the point. They submit themselves to this kind of process where they turn into sedimentary becomes metamorphic. At last all the three will go passion and death process, which involves weathering, and at last again they reform sedimentary. This is how circular model of production is employed. So now these rocks teach us something, isn't it? What is about only geology? That is science. But what do they teach us? That is the point. Before that, I want to tell you, metamorphic rock, if you want to see, you should go to Lal Bagh garden. There is a huge rock. When you go there, when you enter and come the last, there is a small temple there. Huge rock. Can I tell you something? Sare jagah se acha. India is having one of the priceless treasure. It is known as the continental gneiss. Gneiss or gneiss. Metamorphic rock. What I have been talking. That is the foliated gneiss. It's a foliated. These marbles are unfoliated, because the foliated means you go there and watch. That is the sacrament of India. If you go there, you are going back to 3.8 billion years. Mind you, you are going to 3.8 billion years, the time when it was formed, and Archean and Adian, we get a glimpse of that deep time. If you take the minerals and then if you are able to get into the science part of it, you will find out how the weather was in that time, 3.8 billion years. What was Earth made up of? Every insight. People come and do the research and find out, and they publish. That rock is one of the treasure trove of India. we treasure it, but we go and see our people what they do there. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? India can't protect everything because India itself is a heritage country, old country. Government can't protect everything, but it's up to us because we lack ecological intelligence and conscience. That is the thing where you come to educate India in this kind of matter. So they have some respect for that rock. Just if you have time before you go and visit that rock. Just go and stand on it. We are not worthy to stand on it. So it is the peninsular gneiss. Did I say continental gneiss?
Continental gneiss.
Peninsular, did I say?
You said continental.
Sorry, that is wrong. Peninsular gneiss. That is the rock, which is the metamorphic rock. If you take that rock and you cut it and then polish it, one of the beautiful rocks. Don't tell to any politicians, they will come and do it immediately. So that is one of the nobody can touch that. Anyway, it's protected. You can see the history also there. They have written beautifully. India has done a good job again protecting a biotic practice. India is fantastic. We operate from here, conscience, not from here. If you tell here, if you clean it up here, I think Indians can come still to the top level. We can do that. So that is where our requirement. Now apply it to the church. That is the most important part. This is contemplation. Only contemplation can do it. So now I told you igneous rock. Jesus told you a rock. On this rock I build my church. Okay? There are a lot of things. By the way, all the brothers, you are educators. This is the window through which you get closer access to the natural world. Nothing else. You just put it in your pocket here all the time. Whether you sleep or whether you wake up, this is your another eye. Because the kids would immediately, they will also buy one and put it in their pocket. So this is what you lack. Put it there. And then all the time, whether you are doing real research or not, just take it and ham it up. That's all. So you can see crystals in a closer form. There are a lot of crystals you can identify. So this is a igneous rock. The first thing comes to my mind is strong, isn't it? So church is strong. Jesus, now you see why Jesus compared rock to the church. It is strong. Everything becomes foundation. So for all of future activity, life, church becomes the foundation. That's why we call it Mother Church. So this rock qualities we can trace out slowly when you study of these rocks, the characteristics of the rock and finally the characteristics of the Mother Church. Only that thing I tell, a lot of things are there, but I'm not going to tell everything. This is sediment. I told you through the process of weathering, all these particles, this stone gathered, and through the process called compaction and cementation, one by one, it formed millions of years ago, and then it gives back again, isn't it? Church also, it goes wide in the world and gathers different cultures, religious beliefs. Second Vatican Council, all of you know, recognize this fact of all faiths are equally good, and it gathers different philosophies, theologies, sciences, economics, and makes a mixture of teaching employing faith. So social teachings of the pontiffs, all the encyclicals, they do this. They take different approaches in order to interpret our own church reality. You know that, no? So this is what we do. We develop all the time. We look for integration. So it's integrated. The last one is metamorphic. So metamorphic, easily you can interpret. The metamorphic rock, I told you, through the process called temperature and pressure. It allows itself, again the process melting, again reorganizing the crystals. That's what we are doing today. We are changing according to the time. We allowed ourselves to be melted, deconstructed all the old ideas. Now you are rereading, reinterpreting, and reconstructing so that we can go and act. That is the metamorphic qualities. So now you understand the church and the rock geology is the similar we are talking about. The geology, the theology comes from geology. That is what I want to tell you. In fact, for the Thomas Barry, that Passionist priest, he calls himself geologian, not theologian, just to contrast from, just he tells you everything comes from geologian. Then only theologian can talk. So now, I hope your minds are a little elevated because we went to 3.58 billion years back to contemplate. So then life starts and then comes everything. Microscopic bacteria, everything came from them. So now the missing puzzle. So this is how you contemplate. So today the day becomes all the more very special for us because we were contemplating on the biotic world which has value we never even talked about. Today they are proud, but yet they are simple organisms, humility. You learn from humility from them. Simplicity, they don't boast. Wherever you put, they remain there. They don't want any transfer. They flourish in their own house. They never go anywhere. They are there. Only we shift them here and there. That's why Shakespeare put it so beautifully. He observed in the 17th century and wrote tongues in trees. That is the tongue of God. He speaks to me. And murmur in brooks. Water talks to me, that sound. Sermons in stones. Ultimately, sermon in stone. That is the biggest theology and philosophy. And anything you learn, ecology, environment, all the subjects flow from there. Your chemistry, mathematics, everything flow from those rocks. So this is the truth. If you contemplate, you can understand that. So that's why Jesus told you a rock. On this rock, I build my church. Anyway, contemplate whole day, whole week, whole month, whole year, whole life, you can contemplate. Very nice. Any questions? Any questions you have regarding anything?
Curious question, Father.
Yeah.
What about sand grains and the corals?
Thank you so much. Actually, I forgot that. Brother reminded me that, I told through the process of weathering, by the way, corals, all of them are sedimentary rocks, all right? Sedimentary. From the sediments of the rocks, they are built. Most of the corals, they are biotic, because they are living corals, life. Only that limestone on which they are built, they are abiotic, which comes from naturally limestone is a sedimentary rock. You know the limestone, you have that white paint. You know the white paint? It is the sedimentary rock. Sunnambanna sedimentary rock, because it formed from chemical sedimentary rock. That is another one. Is plastic, that is non-life. Chemical means life. All the chunnambu comes from the shells of the crustaceans, because all those animals, those lived in 300, 400 million years ago, that carbonated shells, they fell down when they died, and they deposited, they became sedimentary, and at last the plate tectonic brought them up to the surface, and they left them, for example, Ariyalur. You know Ariyalur, you have a school there?
Yes.
That is the school where you go and do the research for that. Once upon a time, Ariyalur basin was under the ocean, and it brought back. So whatever cement what we are making today, All the cement comes from those organisms that live 300, 400, 600 million years ago. So that's why that rocks are used and powdered. So we don't have any value for that. Humans, they think God created everything for us and they powder everything. In fact, that is a sacrament area where you should go and pay your homage and reverence because they are the organisms that were living once upon a time which formed us. So we came from there. So in fact, I collected about 300 kilograms. I went with my car and collected, and then I brought them. I buried them in my house. It's a conservation. So when geologists talk about everything over there, cement made, but I have the original Arielu geology in my house, and I've kept it inside safely there. So this is what the sand, that's what the weathering process makes sand, clay, and loamy. 4 types of soil. Jesus teaches, you know, that parable of the sower, Matthew 13. He talks about the sandy soil, the rocky soil, he says, isn't it? Which is no good. And the clay soil, no good. Because clay is something when you walk 1,000 times, you know, the clay, compacted. It doesn't take water inside, air also inside. So plants may grow only little and then they die off. And the third is humus. Humus means all the bushy, all those leaves. It looks like a soil, but you plant there, only it grows and it will die off. Actually, humus soil, from where we come. Humans come from humus. The Bible refers to that phenomenon as Adam came from Adama. That is the Hebrew word, Adama. The man is called Adam. So humans came from humus. And then the last category is loamy soil. Loamy soil is the perfect soil. Jesus says a good soil which produces 60, 80, 100 fold. So that is the loamy soil is the combination of sand, clay, humus in perfect combination. Humus creates the microscopic bacteria. All the sandy soil and the clay soil, they don't produce microscopic elements. Only humus, those create the microscopic factors with the loamy soil. The last soil outcome is called loamy. The loamy soil, what we have here, we call it arable soil, technically, which grows food for us and which produces 60%, 80%, 100%. Basically, they all come from there. So the corals, everything is the process called weathering. All this, everything comes from, didn't I say? Everything comes from rocks only. Nothing comes, you and me came from rocks. Everything, if you ask anything, Jesus came from rocks. That's why it's going back. That's why our John Muir quote is so nice. Mountains are calling, I must go home. The quote, mountains are calling, I must go home. So that's why I baptized that quote I already told you. Soil is calling, I must go home when you die. That is very mystical statement. Soil is calling, I must go home. Because I came from that home, isn't it? It's the soil. Manidam, everything comes from there. So remember that. All right? Very good. Thanks for asking that question because that made me to bring my lecture to the fullness. Wonderful. Anything else? By the way, today we have Italy and Kesari. That also comes from rock. Remember that?
Idli also comes from rock. Recorded. Idli and Geology also is recorded.
Or photo எடுத்துருங்க அப்படியே எல்லாரும்